Hello, this is Dave Wood here. I'm talking to you from my home in the mountains in Escazú, Costa Rica. It's a beautiful rainy day right now. You might be able to hear it in the background, you might not, but it's cool because there's a nice breeze, and normally down here it's hot. And so today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the 5 laws of creation, all right? And what I mean by creation is I mean the process of having something inside your mind, an inspired idea, the process that you have from getting an idea all the way from getting it to creating it on the outside. Because the way that you create things is first in your mind, then you create it through your words, and then you actually create it through your actions. And so we're going to talk about 5 laws that have allowed me to do amazing things and create things that didn't exist, and a lot of them people didn't think could exist, and I'm still creating things all the time that people don't think can happen, but they can because I know how to make it happen. And so how does creation work? That's the question. People are always doing things like buying movies, buying things like The Secret, and they're wondering why things don't happen for them. And so I'm going to give you 5 keys, and if you follow these, you will get results. So it's actually this simple. There's 5 steps. Step number 1 is to first get inspired. But don't just get inspired about anything. What you want to do is you want to get inspired about something that's massive and something that's massively cool. Even better, right? Not just something, but something that's cool. And so what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, let's talk about inspiration, okay? So first of all, what do I mean by inspiration? What I mean by inspiration is I mean that there is a difference between an idea, something that you just come up with, versus something that's more like an instinct that's given to you, or something that kind of bubbles up from your unconscious mind. Some people, they don't understand instincts and they don't understand inspiration, and they think that, for example, your gut is always right, or you think that your instincts are always right. But the reality is that your instincts are actually usually only right in areas where you're trained. For example, if you have a martial artist who's spent maybe $10,000, maybe $100,000, but tens of thousands of hours training with opponents with real energy and pressure, they might have spontaneous insights that will really work for them in the ring. But if you take another person who's never trained martial arts before, their spontaneous instinct is going to be to freeze up and put their hands in their face to block something, which is not a good response. And so when you're in an industry, when you're in a business, and when you're doing something for a long period of time, you develop an instinct from the combined total and the sum of the information that you've taken in through your 5 senses and also the things that you've studied. And so what you want to do is you want to be as educated in whatever business you're in as possible first to get inspiration. That is the first key to inspiration. It's actually studying. It's getting your mind involved in the whole field of information that exists out there in the world that's available to the area that you want to get inspired in. For example, if you run a business or you're doing investments or trades, you want to read everything that exists on that. Warren Buffett reads 6 hours a day. I actually was reading some Donald Trump books in real estate. He reads 3 hours a day in the morning to fill his mind with information on his kind of a business. And because they do those things, they're some of the richest people in the world, right? So you want to fill your mind with inspiration that will allow you to form new connected ideas, to get inspiration to form a vision in whatever it is that you're doing. And until you do that, maybe your gut instinct and maybe your inspiration is actually not going to be accurate. So the first step is to get the information into your unconscious that's going to allow you to be inspired in the first place. And then what you want to do is this. You know the movie The Secret, they're always talking about asking the universe. Well, you could ask the universe, you could ask your higher self, you could ask your unconscious mind, you can ask God. I like to ask God. But the reality is what you want to do is, rather than just asking for something, you want to ask for an idea, a mission, or a vision, right, from your higher self. You want to actually put those questions out into the universe. It's actually much easier to create something when you get inspired ideas than it is to create something when you just have an idea that's just totally formed out of nowhere, that doesn't really have any sort of divine or source or any source of information behind it, if that makes sense. And so the first thing is, once again, study things, involve your mind in whatever processes that need to be involved with in order to build your kind of a business. And then what you want to do is you want to put your ideas out there in the universe to get inspired ideas, especially in the context of solving very specific problems. And so step number one is actually to take the time, to take the energy, to take the research, to take all the resources of your mind and your senses and delve into the subject that you want to get inspired by, and then ask for inspiration from the universe, your higher self, from God, and wait and continue to create ideas. And if you do that, you're going to create inspired ideas. Now let's move on to step number two. So step number two is to state what you're going to create, what you're in the process of co-creating, with a complete knowing that it is going to happen, period. That's actually what faith is. It's not just believing. When you're talking about a belief, when you're talking about something, I believe this is going to happen, a belief is not something that you're sure is going to happen, okay? What faith is putting evidence into the universe. It's a spirit, a sort of manifestation, a sort of proof of what actually hasn't happened yet, but that you're creating, and you are going to make it happen. So as you're speaking what you're going to create, you want to know that it's going to happen, and as you know it, you want to allow that sort of inspirational fire inside your soul to light up your spirit, to light up your unconscious mind, to light up your belief systems as you speak this thing that you want into the dimensions of space, time, and energy, right? I grew up in a family that had a religious background, and in the beginning of the Old Testament, God says, "Let there be light," right? And He speaks light into creation. Now, regardless of whether you believe that story or you don't believe it, is irrelevant to this context. The reality is that you could just replace light with your particular empowering outcome, because the reality is that if you want to create things, you've got to speak about them confidently, like they are going to happen, period. And that's actually the lesson that I get from that story. And this whole thing, this common belief that people have that we're made in the image of God, we're made in the image of our higher beings, that's highly underutilized with all the people I know. And so what you want that is, I mean that after you have an inspired idea, you want to act with an expectation that it is going to happen, period. I was actually sitting down with my girlfriend the other day, and I was talking to her about this, and what I did was I used some very basic technology from neurolinguistic programming to elicit the difference between something she remembers and something she thinks might happen. And the reality is that you represent things differently in your mind and your heart that you think might happen, but maybe they won't, than you do if you know for sure something's going to happen. And if you're treating something as if you know for sure that it's going to happen, you act totally differently than if you think it's going to happen. And that's the difference between a belief and faith. See, too many people, entrepreneurs, what they do is they get started in a business and they say things like, I'm going to try it out. Or I'm going to dip my toe in the water and see if it works for me. Or I'm going to kind of get in, and if it doesn't work out in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to get my money back. But the reality is that those people, until they change that behavior, are actually never going to create anything. And the reason isn't because they're bad people. It's because nobody's ever taught them the laws of creation. Because if you get involved with something, there's not any options if you know it's going to happen. For example, let me give you an example with my own business. If you came into my business today and you knew, this, by the way, does not happen in my business, this is how it works, but I'm giving you an example, I'm creating something. But let's say you knew that you were going to give me $5,000, and then in a week, I was going to give you back $20,000, right? Let's say that's how it worked. And so you come up and you say, okay, David, in a week, I'm going to get back $20,000. Now let me ask you a question. If you knew for sure you were going to get back $20,000, let's say you only had $100, right? How many of you would have a hard time coming up with $5,000? The fact is, you wouldn't have a hard time. You would figure out a way to do it because you knew for sure. That is the difference between faith and belief. Faith is knowing, belief is thinking, maybe, right? And that's the way that people treat these things today, right? And I encourage you to act in faith, which is you set an outcome, it's an inspired outcome, and it doesn't matter what obstacles pop in the way because it's happening, period, right? It's happening, period, that's it. There's nothing that's going to stand in your way. It is happening right now, period. That's the way that you want to act, right? Does that make sense? So step number 3, let's move on. That's going to be to continue doing that with new inspired ideas, visions, and things that you have come into your mind that you create as you take time to meditate, to stare into the universe, to stare at a whiteboard, to stare at a piece of paper with a pen, and call forth the power of the future in your heart and mind by creating, speaking, and imagining new and beautiful things. This is something that you don't want to just do once, right? A lot of times another problem that people get is that they set outcomes and they never set more outcomes. They stop. I've actually gone through periods of my life where I've done this too. For example, when I started in Power Network, I wrote down a list of outcomes. I accomplished all of them, and I was so busy accomplishing them that I stopped dreaming for a while, and I didn't even realize I stopped doing it until later, and then I realized it and started creating new and bigger outcomes and things I haven't accomplished yet again. Until I did that, things didn't really start to change and to move into a position to really grow massively bigger than they were before. Does that make sense? I also did that the first time I got on the internet. I remember I was in my parents' house and I started writing down goals. I had journals of goals. I mean, things that I wanted to create in the future. I was going to make $30,000 a month. I was going to move to the beach in Costa Rica. And I did it in like 3 months. Well, the thing is, when I hit all my goals in 3 months, all my motivation to create new things disappeared. And so what did I do? I stopped creating. Why? Because I wasn't continuing to call on the same energy, the same power of faith to create new things, because I was living in them. In other words, I didn't have any dreams and goals because I had accomplished them and I was living in the dream that I created earlier. This is a very common thing for entrepreneurs. When you learn the keys of creation, when you learn how to create massive things, when you learn to tap into the power that you've got inside to build new worlds, you got to understand something. You will accomplish all your goals. So you got to continue doing this, continue dreaming, continue taking time to brainstorm, continue imagining bigger and better, more beautiful things. If you bought the house that's your dream house, you want to paint in your mind a bigger one. If you bought your car, you want to paint in your mind something cooler. Continue to create, continue to desire, continue to put ideas out there and to speak about them like they're happening. Let's move to step number 4, okay? And this is really important. That's all of your energy continuously needs to point in the direction of your visionary creations, taking every possible action available, and if it's not working, create new actions, using every possible resource, exploring every possible path of manifestation as you continue taking action and speaking new things into the universe. Look, here's another problem that people have, and this goes back into faith. Really, this all boils back down into you. Not do you believe, but are you going to do it, period. Do you know that's going to happen? Are you speaking that into the world the way you speak about your memories that already happened that you believe? Are you speaking about your future as if it's a memory from the future, or are you speaking about it like it's some fantasy? If you think about it like a fantasy is something that's not going to happen, where a memory is something that happened. I like to think about my dreams as memories from the future. That's the way I think about them, right? Do you really believe it? Are you really taking all the action? Are you really going to do whatever it takes? Is it decided already? See, a lot of people, they say, make a decision, make a decision, make a decision, but then the tiniest obstacle comes up, they stub their toe and they quit. I actually, one time had a business partner and he used to say things like, you know, I was in all these companies and they used to stub their toe and quit. And then he stubbed his toe and he quit. But the reality is, guys, is that no matter what happens, you've got to have your vision. And if you don't have a vision, if you don't continue speaking it into existence, if you don't continue to create new things, if you don't continue to imagine beautiful things in the universe, the reality is you're not going to create them. But if you don't act as if it's going to happen and be willing to go through anything in order to create it, it's not going to be created. And this is the biggest thing, is people don't realize how resilient they can be. You don't realize how much you can actually go through, and that all of the blessings in your life, everything that you want to create, all of the wonder, the beauty, the imaginations, all of the things that you create, that it's like you come in the room and it's like the energy changes because you're so powerful. All those things, all of them are not going to happen if you quit, right? Quitters don't win, period, right? And winners don't quit. So the two are kind of exclusive, right? And if you were a quitter, that's okay. I've been a quitter in the past. I changed. Does that make sense, right? You want to decide this will happen, period. And when nobody believes you, when your relative doesn't believe you, when your spouse doesn't believe you, when your kids don't believe you, it doesn't matter, because you are so full of energy creating new things that when they see it happen, they'll start to believe you in the future. Does that make sense? So what do you do next? Well, step number 5. As you find yourself stepping into the things that you've forgotten about, that you've set in the past, that you just dropped into the dimensional energy of space-time through your faith, through your words, through your actions, through the things that you've written down, I want you to remember something. I want you to be thankful and enjoy the new life that you've created, and actually do what you said you'd do. As you continue creating, as you continue speaking, as you continue realizing that you are just that. You are a divine creation, as I like to say, in His image. And that, my friend, is beautiful. It's beautiful just like you're beautiful. Now here's the thing that I really want you to understand. You can create all those things that you've imagined. Look, too many adults, they've been trained through society because our education system is awful, right? They've been trained through their parents, who were trained by their parents, who were trained by another education system that taught people to be normal. The government wants you to be normal. The teachers want you to be normal. They don't believe they can do amazing things. I'm going to tell you something. It's bullshit. It's bunk. It's not true. You can do incredible, amazing things, right? And if you speak them, if you create them, go live them. Be willing to step into that door that opens in the universe. A lot of people, that happens and then they're afraid to change, right? But the change is better. It's like, you know, you make all this money on the internet and then you're afraid to change. You're afraid to let go of that past. You're afraid to let go of all the things that happen. You're afraid to let go of your beliefs that you're not enough. But you just got to cut it off and let go and live the dream that you can create. Let it go. Cut the bridges, burn the bridges. That's actually what it means to decide, and then step into it as you're continuing to create, and never stop creating. Don't make the same mistake. We all do. I'm hoping you'll remember that. Everyone I've ever known has done it at least once, and so I hope that you continue creating. So let me repeat the 5 steps more quickly. Step number 1, you want to get inspired about something massive and cool. Step number 2, you want to state what you're creating with a complete knowing that it will happen, period. Again, that's what faith is. It's not just believing. Faith is evidence in the spirit of what hasn't happened quite yet. As you're speaking it, you got to know that it's going to happen, and as you know it, you want to allow that fire inside your soul to light up your spirit as you speak into the dimensions of space-time and say, let there be whatever you want, right? And that's what you want to do. So you got to remember that you want to speak into space-time. Now step number 3 is, what you want to do is you want to continue doing that with new inspired visions all the time. Every day take time to do this. Do it with your spouse. You want to motivate your spouse? Dream with her. Dream with them, right? Create dreams together. As you stare into the universe, look at a whiteboard, grab a pen. You want to call forth memories from the future. Think about your goals, not as things that you might miss. Think about it like memories from the future, if you could imagine that, and continue imagining, speaking new and beautiful things. Step number 4. All of your energy, your physical energy, every action you take continuously points in the direction of those visionary creations, believing them, not believing them, but having faith in them like they are. Taking every possible action available, and when those are exhausted, take more. Utilizing every possible resource, exploring every possible path of manifestation as you continue taking action, as you continue speaking new things. Finally, number 5. As you find yourself accomplishing the things that you've spoken into the universe, what you want to do is you want to realize something that you need to go live that. When that finally comes to you, when the door opens, when you meet that special person, when you finally get connected to the resources that you need, step into that life that you imagined, step into that vision that you dropped into the universe, and go live it and say to yourself, yes, I'm worthy of this. Yes, I can create great things. And if you do that, you are going to continue to be blessed. And so today, this has been an episode of The Daily Shortcut, and what I want to do is I want to give you some gifts today to help you do these things. But it's up to you to do it, because I can give these to you, but if you don't do it, you're not going to get these results. If you don't create, if you don't take that action that you know you need to take, you're not going to be able to do the things that seem magical to other people. They're not magic, it's just part of being a human being. Creating is. But here's what you want to do. Number 1, you want to scroll down, tell me what you learned in the comments today in detail as much as you can. Number 2, right? I want you to put in your email address and click the button that says give me the total shortcut. When you do that, I'm going to give you 3 bonuses on the next page to help you implement these ideas. Number 1, in audio. You need to listen to this like 10 times and hear what I'm saying and do it, right? Ask yourself, hey, how am I actually representing the things that I want in the future? Am I representing it like things that I wish I had but will never get? Right? If you think about something you think you'll never get, and you think about how that's held in your mind, and if you're thinking about your goals like that, you're thinking about your goals like something that can't happen. But you can just switch that. Think about something you totally know will happen, and then put your goals in that same space, the same color, the same energy, the same dimensions, right? That's called submodalities in NLP, but you can just take it and put it in the same place. Now here's the reality. If you think about your goals and you know they're going to happen, they'll happen. So you'll listen to this like 5 times. Second, you're going to get a transcript of this whole audio, and I want you to read it, because that's going to come in a work workbook that you can fill out to think through these things and to create strategy for yourself to go create new things. But here's a third thing that I'm going to give you on the next page. I'm going to give you my whole system. There's going to be a video that's going to start to play on the next page, and I want you to watch that all the way through, and as you're watching it, make a decision to get the Total Shortcut system, because we're going to help you create lifestyle in your body and your mind and your life by creating income, wealth, and freedom at the same time if you want that. So go leave a detailed comment. We'll send you a book. If you write the best comment of the day, we'll give you a free book. And just remember, take some time today with those bonuses to create, to speak, to believe in yourself, to do new and beautiful things in your mind. And I will see you in the next Daily Shortcut episode. I appreciate you, and thanks for visiting me in my home. I'll talk to you guys soon.